Welcome to the #1 show and the source of truth for all things MedTech. Here, we reveal the secrets and stories behind the investments, science, and commercialization of the MedTech industry. Every week, we'll take you on a wild ride with the biggest names in the game, from entrepreneurs and investors who are shaking up the market to healthcare providers who are revolutionizing the way we think and practice medicine. So hold on tight and get ready for a journey like no other. This is the State of MedTech. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show and this week's solo pod, as voted by you, the audience, and wonderful followers over on All Hail Medical Sales / Red Hat Gang over on Instagram, is how to convert a bad territory. Now, we've all been in this situation where maybe we're not given a bad territory, but we have a territory that's good, it becomes bad. In any case, like, what do you do with a bad territory, and what do you do with an account that's just not good, right? And so that's going to be the topic. And of course, I just got to plug a couple of things. Number one, if you're going to be in the San Francisco Bay Area during the middle of September, around September 13th, that's when Dreamforce is happening in the Bay Area. You don't have to be attending Dreamforce, but I'm doing a free event alongside my podcast partner, Clary. Clary is this amazing software company that essentially takes your Salesforce CRM, automates it in terms of how the data is being entered, and also creates predictable revenue. We're doing an event with their SVP of marketing, Kyle Coleman, who's a really well-respected guy in the SaaS industry, former seller, and now leads their marketing team, and the one and only Daniel Hawkins, founder of Shockwave Medical, founder of Avail Systems, intuitive employee number 6, and along, he's, in my mind, like medical sales royalty. So we're going to be on stage at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. It's going to be happening on September 13th, which is a Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Check the notes below. RSVP for that. It's a free event. Show up. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there in person that week. And then lastly, if you're listening to the Solo Pod, I want to reward you by inviting you to my program, the Medical Sales Network Effects Program. People have been getting amazing results in it, including this testimonial right here.
I tried to reach out to this one surgeon. I posted recently on LinkedIn about Spine Elements launching a bunch of new products in this year, in 2023. He accepted my connection request, liked that comment, and 2 days later booked a case with this new technology that we had showed him 2 days prior. A methodical step. So, and the surgery yesterday went pretty well. He agreed to try it again. It was a win-win-win of getting the connection on LinkedIn to seeing our content, having a good inter-office meeting from a standpoint of being able to talk with the surgeon about the new technology and what his peer was doing, and then having a successful case where he would want to use the product again.
And I want to share another one from Vendela, who is a rep who sells to gynecological physicians and surgeons. She had these wins to share. Number one, the co-chair of a really busy hospital in her territory is now an advocate for a device at the hospital. This started with DMs on LinkedIn, then a Zoom meeting, and the next demo meeting with the entire department. She's had someone in hospital leadership directly reach out to her, praising her content and saying that they learned a lot about their technology just through her LinkedIn content. And the last thing is she's gotten a lot of traffic to her profile. LinkedIn is the future, not only in terms of selling, but think about your brand in terms of your career. I launched my entire business because of what I've done on LinkedIn. So you never know what kind of opportunities lie in there. The Medical Sales Network Effects Program doesn't just teach you about how to leverage LinkedIn to a maximum. We teach you about email marketing and selling, how to do video sales letters, how to sell through various social media channels. And between that and the private network, which is full of VPs, CEOs, recruiters, other reps, great place to network, and live weekly calls. So every week we have a coaching call. You're able to jump on, ask me any questions, whether it's interviewing, closing deals, and sometimes even I'll do what's called network grand rounds, where I invite a guest speaker. Some past guest speakers have been Dr. Ira Kirschenbaum, who's a chair of orthopedic surgery at Bronx Care. We've had Aaron Chester, who's VP of sales at ComEd. So it's a great program, and normally it's $3,500. I've discounted it for people listening to the Solo Pod. It's only $19.97. You can pay that off in a couple of credit card payments. And again, you have lifetime access to the content. So check the link below, sign up, join this program, invest in yourself. Okay. Change is coming, my friends. And the people who are investing now in themselves and not waiting for their companies are the ones who are going to benefit. So that aside, right? let's get into the topic today. So how do you turn around a bad territory? So some of this is my own approach. Some of it I've gotten some ideas from one of the Network Grand Round sessions with Jacob McLaughlin. Jacob was a rep at Medtronic, had a terrible account, turned it around into a multi-million-dollar account himself. So I pulled some notes from that because he had some really good ideas and just kind of blended them together. Okay, so the very first thing that I'm going to say that you have to do is that when it comes to having a bad account, like, do not fool yourself about it. The first thing is for, really analyzing it. Okay. And by the way, excuse me while I take a nice little sip from my coffee. First thing is that you have to sit down and get all the information. I think the mistake people make is that they immediately want to rush in and take action. And sometimes the best thing to do is nothing at first. Okay. So get all the information. That means jump into your CRM, see what information's there, see what other notes there are. If the previous rep is still in the company, go talk to that rep and get as much information. A lot of you, though, what happens is that the rep leaves. And so then you've been given this account, you have no contact with that rep. Let's say the rep left on really bad terms. So the chances of you able to reach out are very low. Even in that case, I would reach out, get that rep's cell phone number, call them, just say, hey, look, I know you left on really bad terms. I don't mean to bother you, but like, I've been given this account and I could really use your help. Ask for help. Okay. And even if that's like not the case, like, talk to HR, okay, and say, hey, I need access to some of the emails from the previous rep. I don't need access to all of them. Can you please forward to me any email that was sent from, let's say at HCA facility, whatever, right? Get those emails, read through them, pour through that, and analyze what the heck's going on. After you analyze, okay, and again, that means talking to the rep, ask him what went well, what didn't go well, right? And then talk to people internal in the company, go through all get as much information as possible. Then you step into what I like to call the direct engagement phase, okay? Direct engagement and really honest communication. So first thing is go meet with the customer, right? Don't just meet with a doctor. I would say before you, let's say it's a surgeon who used to use your products, hates you guys, doesn't use them. Don't start with them first. Start with people who are a little less territorial, maybe not going to be as angry. Talk to people in the hospital, such as the nursing staff, the medical staff, talk to the C-suite, supply chain, anybody that's going to be relevant, okay? And everybody's going to be different, but again, you never know where that nugget of information is going to come from. While you're engaging, it's very important. This is not the time to sell, okay? You need to engage without selling. Your first interactions, you need to prioritize building a relationship. The way you build a relationship is through honesty, okay? And showing that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make things right, okay? And a lot of times, like in my past, when I've had to go and turn around a territory, let's say I'm dealing with a really angry account, I would go and say, hey, I know the way, and I don't usually point a person out. Even if it's a rep's fault, don't do that. Take the responsibility as a company. Say, hey, I know in the past year you've not been happy with our company. If I were in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way as you, and I don't blame you. Like, that's the most important thing, is to make sure that the customer's emotions are valid and that you agree with it. I've done one of the reels that's pinned on our Instagram page is actually how to deal with an angry surgeon, which is identifying the emotion they're feeling and actually being more upset than them. A lot of times when I go into account, if I sit down and I talk to somebody, I show that I'm more pissed off about it than they are. That means you start yelling or anything, but you have to show that how extremely ashamed you are, how upset you are, and that you're ready to do whatever it takes. And I think this is part the side where, as a rep, you can be really empowered, because you have no way to change your company's contract policies, your servicing policies and pricing, the product itself, but you can have a lot of control on how you deliver great customer service, right? So I think, when you talk to people, even if it's, let's say, a nurse or a scrub tech, just know that you have no idea if that person is going to deliver that message that you're sharing to the next person or to the surgeon, right? And so a lot of times what you have to convey is to say, hey, there's only so much that I can do myself, but I can tell you that from everything that I can control, I'm going to do everything possible to make sure that you guys are taken care of, to make sure to show that I'm present, that I'm reliable, all these things, okay? If you decide to come back and use this, wonderful, but if not, in the meantime, I'm going to do everything I can to sort of correct the mistakes that are done in the past. So you need to make it as if like you're taking this on yourself. Okay. And so, and be ready, because you will, a lot of times when people are frustrated, not everybody's mature enough to realize that somebody's just doing their job. They'll direct their anger towards you. You just got to take it. Okay. You just got to take it and just be prepared for that. Okay. And let people have their moments. Some people just have to, like lash out a little bit. Let them do that. Okay. Um, have really inclusive dialogue. Okay. Meaning talk to everybody that's associated with the account. Again, not just the doctors, not just the nurses, but also talk to administrative staff, right? If you're dealing, let's say it's a robotic system or something that, let's say, hospital marketing has to do with, like, go talk to them, like anyone and everyone, right? And again, I think it really helps a lot if you're able to talk to your HR and just say, hey, I don't need all email access. I need you to forward me every single email thread with this email domain, from whatever XYZ hospital. Okay. And then you need to really position yourself as an asset, like demonstrate that you're going to be there and be a genuine asset, not just there to make money. Think of that however you want. So again, if that means that you are checking in the account, just making sure you're present and helpful as much as possible, that's fine, right? Again, the first month is going to be just you establishing the relationship and making sure that they can rely on you. Okay. Again, the most important part about this is that you're going to learn what happened and what didn't happen based on your info from those emails, info from all the staff and people at the hospital, info from your internal company. Talk to the rep, right? And even when you're dealing with the staff, ask the staff. And again, you can ask the surgeon, of course, but ask people in the organization, the hospital, who interact with their rep. Hey, like, what did they do really well? What did they not do? Like, what do you think caused the relationship to go in this direction, right? And people will tell you the truth, right? So don't try and guess. The dumbest thing that you can do, or any rep does, is, get a bad territory and try and say, okay, we're not going to talk about any of these bad things that were done, and just like as if we're going to avoid it, and we're going to try and like just move forward. That's not going to happen. You have to go down in that hole and address the ugly thing that people don't want to talk about, right? Okay. The next thing is, as simple as this sounds, keep your word, right? Whatever you're committing to, you commit with integrity. If you say you're going to be somewhere or do something, let's say like attending the surgeries or doing XYZ, make sure that happens. Your word is your bond, right? So a lot of times a surgeon, I'm just giving you an example from my past, was upset because they're told like one rep was going to be covering a surgery, but then every other week, right, there's a different rep. So sometimes, when I talk to surgeons, I say, hey, I understand that you get really flustered when there's always a different rep every other week, because you want continuity, you want consistency. I totally get that. And you can come in and just say, hey, look, the company is growing. There's things that are out of my control, but what I can control is that the next 6 months, I'm going to be your go-to. Okay. I'm going to bring in somebody with me to make sure that things are taken care of in the right way. And we're going to try and keep things as consistent as possible so that you don't have to worry about this. Right. And just ask them. Sometimes you can ask them, just say, hey, look, I can't guarantee anything right now. I'm working. I'm trying to get up to speed on things, but just, if I was a magical genie, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask, in a lot of my sales process, if I was a magical genie and in 6 months or 9 months, you were so happy with our engagement, you were so happy with the product, service, etc., what 3 wishes would technically have to come true? Just pretend I'm a magical genie, because they're going to tell you their desires, right? That's going to tell them, again, that's the future state. And then you contrast that by saying, today, what are the 3 pain points? What are the most frustrating things about what you're dealing with now? You need to get that information. You cannot guess. Okay. And again, sometimes, like, okay, the most combative person, it could be the director of the OR, or it could be the surgeon, and it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. You have to be prepared for that. But I think the most important thing is to emphasize, again, do things with integrity. You have to almost practice from the mirror, like make sure that they see that you are genuinely sorry and upset about what happened, and just remind them and say, hey, I know what happened before was not my fault, but I feel that there's a responsibility on my end to make sure that I can do everything possible to change it, right? And if they say something like, look, no offense, I'm never using your company again. I'm never doing this XYZ. Just say, hey, I totally understand, but I'm just trying to do my job here. Could you just give me some guidance as to what happened? How could we have avoided this? Because my company's going to be expecting me to come back with some answers. And I just want to make sure that I do my job to the best of my ability. If you bring it back to yourself and you're trying to say, hey, like, help me out so I can help you out, they'll at least meet you halfway. Most, if not all people, even surgeons, are going to be reasonable about that. Okay. The next thing is just do the right thing. Okay. Again, just being truthful up front is going to be helpful. So a lot of times, being brutally honest about the state of things is going to be helpful, right? Don't provide misleading information. Don't try and promise something that is going to be hard to hold up, right? If you're unsure about something, just admit it, right? A lot of times, using this situation I'm talking about in the past where a surgeon was like, I want the same rep in every single case, no matter what. And I have to be honest, I was like, look, I'm going to work my hardest to make sure that happens. But I'll be honest, I don't know if I can promise that. I just want to be honest with you. And just say, look, I'm trying my best to meet you as close to where you want as possible. Right. So again, being honest, being genuine is going to be helpful. And again, the more information you get out of them, the better. Right. And sometimes, rectifying a mistake is what's going to be needed. So, for example, let's say you're dealing with a very upset director of the OR, right? Again, ask them. Just say, "Hey, look, I'm just trying to find a solution. Just between you and I, if I was able to get like 5 kits thrown in for free, or maybe I can discount for the month, right? Or I do this or I do that. Figure out what's going to help them, right? Then you have something to negotiate with. You can go back to the company and say, hey, look, this is what they want. How can we meet them in the middle, right? And if your company is smart, maybe a company doesn't want to give away free product or discounted product, but just say, hey, look, okay, we pay for this for now, but then the lifetime value of that customer will make that up because we're going to get them back, right? A smart company will understand this, okay? And again, the more information you get, the better. Go straight to the source. Don't make any assumptions. Ask them, okay? Now, the next thing is having strategic customer engagement, okay? So when it comes to strategic customer engagement, okay, look within that account and try and figure out who are the most important people that you need to influence, right? Because if let's say the director of the OR or the surgeon, like there's a certain party who's upset, you can sort of rally little by little other people in the hospital who, let's say, want to use your technology and everything, and they can help you figure out a way to smooth it over, right? A lot of times you don't have to be the one doing all the convincing. Lean on these other parties that are going to help the situation, okay? Once you move out of that area, and again, I think that in general, my personal opinion, this whole process that I just discussed, that's going to take maybe a month, maybe 2 even, right? And again, this is not the time to be selling. This is not the time to be arguing about things. You just need to show 2 things. Number one, that you are going to do everything in your power to try and correct whatever mistakes were done in the past, and you're just trying to get an understanding of the situation. Okay, keep your word, right? The thing is that a lot of reps promise a lot of things and then they don't keep their word, right? That's usually in most cases a bad territory. It's usually because something was promised and not delivered, right? On rare occasion, is it the product? Like the product is so bad and you had these issues and everything. If that's the case, I mean, I don't know what to tell you there, right? And this is kind of an obvious one, but again, I'm saying this because a lot of reps just do not lie, right? Do not lie. Something as simple as like, hey, I want to rep in every single case. It's like, yeah, we can do that. If you know for a fact that you can't deliver on that, don't make that promise, right? Because you're just going to make things way, way, way worse. And know that, in the hospital, whether it's with surgeons or anybody else, not every person is somebody that you should be selling. Not every person is a customer. Sometimes there's somebody that you're just trying to get information from, get an understanding of things, so on and so forth. Okay. So after you've got an understanding of all of these things, right? What I would say is start finding ways to develop that relationship. Okay. So again, let's look at the surgeon. Try and understand what's important to that surgeon. So, some surgeons are really active, let's say on LinkedIn or on Twitter. Maybe there's a surgeon, they're publishing an abstract, right? Try and see if you can help somehow with that. Just say, oh, doctor, I noticed that you're going to be publishing this abstract at this upcoming conference. Do you need any help promoting that abstract? Like, I'm very happy. I'll post. I'll go ahead and post about it on my end, on my social media accounts and everything. I'll try and tell other physicians. I'll direct message people about it. Once it's published, I'll show, whatever it is that's important. They got a patient marketing event, offer to help, right? Just offer free help. Like, this is something, again, that sometimes you have to take things into your own hands. And so what I've done in the past is that, because I was really damn good at patient marketing, I would lead with that. And I would tell the doctor, I'm like, look, my company doesn't support patient marketing events, but like myself, outside of my company, I want to help support the event. Like, can I help with the promotion of it? I don't mind going to referring practice and dropping off some flyers. I can make a flyer. I can go make something in Canva and help you out, whatever it is. The fact that you're actually trying, and a lot of times a doctor will be like, no, you don't really have to do that. The fact that you're trying to do something just to help, they will appreciate it. Okay. Now let me go here to my notes real quick. This is the transition part, which is after you've gotten information, after you spend some time developing that relationship and everything. This is the part that some people get a little uneasy about, which is that a lot of times, believe it or not, most accounts as a whole, sometimes they don't realize that they have a problem per se, right? And it's your job to kind of show the importance of the product or solution that you provide and why they need it. Why do they get it in the first place, right? Again, this involves talking to all the people to figure out who the right people are. And when it comes to creating some urgency, right, you have to, in a way, like, center it around patient care. Like, if they adopted a product, it's because they felt that clinically that was the best solution, right? And so you got to, try and move it towards that, maybe based on the contracts that they have, right? Mention that, hey, like, we don't want to fall out of contract, because then, like, if that happens, it becomes a bigger headache, and whatever it might be. Again, I'm doing my best to try and be inclusive of all technology, but like capital versus device versus like implants, this is all very, very different. Okay. Now, again, I think the theme that you guys are getting here is that a lot of the reasons why an account turns bad is because poor communication, and then promises weren't kept, and then they end up upset, right? And sometimes, you get into a situation where no matter what you do, there's just no converting an account, right? And that happens. You have to be very realistic about it. And so in that case, sit down and talk to your manager and just say, hey, here's what I did. And you can outline your like, sit down and write a plan out, which is like, I reviewed all our past communications, analyzed the data, what went wrong, etc. Spoke to these people, and, have everything documented. So if not through an email chain, have it on calendar, have something documented where it's like, here are the people I spoke to, have notes under each of those people. Like, you need to build a case out, right? And you can use Evernote or Note Taker or something, so that way you have this. And maybe even every week with your managers, send an update via email, just to sort of review who you spoke to, what was done, just as a running document, right? Maybe that's a running email thread where it's just say, hey, you don't need to reply to this, but every Friday I'm going to deliver a report through the email thread, so it's documented, like who I talked to, what's going on, etc. Because after that, if you have 4, 5, 6 weeks of that being documented, you can just say, right now, like, it's, we're not going to be able to move much on this account right now, And so at that point, your manager has to make a decision, which is, do you continue spending so much time focusing on this one account, or do you try and go and either convert another account, or maybe even there's an account that's already doing well? How do you get them to, utilize more, right? And, at the end of the day, I think when it comes to think at a much, much higher level too, which is a lot of times when you have a bad territory, a bad account, and again, I don't care whether you work at a Medtronic, J&J, or a small startup, these bad accounts will give you the best clues to your business, because it'll highlight a weakness, right? And so maybe it's almost like a sacrificial thing where that account was lost. You're not going to get it back. But if you spend the time to understand what exactly was done and how could this have been prevented, could it have been prevented at all, it gives you insight in terms of what your competitive advantage is and weaknesses are in your business. Because I'll tell you, if unless it was something that let's say the previous rep did something like just egregious, right? That's to the account. But if it's something that's more related to the business, right? You can identify something and then make a report, hand this to your manager to hand to management, this is going to make your manager look really good, and obviously it'll make you look good. Say, hey, after doing an analysis of this account, speaking to all these people and everything, here's the things that we identified. Problem number one, we don't do a good job supporting the customer after the sale is done, right? That's problem number one. Problem number two, supply chain is been given these promises at the beginning, and then afterwards, we surprise them with the price hike, etc. Keep in mind, by the way, supply chain these days, it used to be the supply chain was looked at as a place where cost savings occur, but now they're actually looked at as a revenue generating area. So, the C-suite of the hospital is looking at supply chain as to like, hey, how can we make more money even, right? And so after spending that time in this account, you should be able to have a really good idea as to like, okay, what went wrong here that we have control of. If it's a bad rep, then again, let's take that further again, and what I would say is that as a rep, this is your opportunity to sit as high up as possible in the company in your mind to understand. So it's like, okay, if it was a bad rep, okay, was that rep always like this? Did they have that reputation before? Why did that rep turn this way? So is that we need to do a better job screening and hiring people? Maybe, the hiring manager hired one of their buddies, right? And we didn't screen them well enough. Or maybe that rep was, I don't know, overworked, spread really thin. And as a result, like this was bound to happen, that they dropped the ball or they made promises they couldn't keep, right? At the end of the day, when something goes wrong, right, and you have the opposite of customer success, right? There's something there. There are variables at play that you can figure out why that happened, right? And so a lot of times, again, the more time you spend thinking through these things, like sit down on your butt and write these things out. And again, the theme here, like, if I can kind of put a bow on this, how do you convert a bad territory? Analyze the account. Don't guess. Go talk to everybody involved there, right? At the hospital, the previous rep, get as much information as possible, piece this all together, and then identify, like, do some critical thinking and do what's called a root cause analysis, right? Which is, there can be all these things there are reasons as to why this went bad. There's one root cause. It's like the main domino that caused all of this, right? Your goal as a rep is to figure out what that root cause was, and either you by yourself have the ability to correct that root cause, or you and your company, let's say it's at the company level, you can correct it at that point. Or if it's beyond that, it's like, okay, there's nothing we can do with this account at this point, but how do we make sure this never happens again in the future? Okay. This is a big learning lesson for startups as well, which is a lot of startups, they focus so much on growth and revenue, and not as much on customer success at the beginning, because they think, if you have like, up and to the right in terms of your revenue, that's great. But if you evaluate, any savvy investor, especially if they're coming from software, they evaluate the revenue. They say, okay, well, what's your churn like? Like, okay, you're selling, what's your churn like? Meaning, well, how many of these customers stick around? They keep using your product. Because if your revenue is going up, but on the back end, you're losing customers, you're burning through the market, like that's a terrible business model, right? It's really bad. And so I think, like, the most important thing for a startup is to think, how do we make sure that our customers are put in the best position to be successful? How do we make sure that they're given as much support and customer service as possible? And how do they feel taken care of? And again, not everything's going to be perfect, but at the very least, with most people are pretty reasonable. If they feel like, hey, this company, they're doing everything they can to support us, they're trying their best, they're going to be understanding, right? If not, though, right, they're going to get a review. And again, that's the nature of the game here. If you're the only game in town, right, as much as I don't like to say, it's like you do have some flexibility to mess up, because like let's say you're the only sole product, you're the only XYZ product or system or whatever, right? But if you have competitors, always remember, you're one screw up away from losing your business. Always remember that, right? You're always one screw up away from losing your business. And so that's why, when I was a rep at Missouri Robotics, one of the things that Sean Stewart, who is one of my managers, always said. He's like, or it was not Sean Stewart. I think it was Matt Afshar. Yeah, it was Matt Afshar, who's a amazing trainer. He said, things go wrong when you start getting comfortable. Because when you start getting comfortable, that's when you slip up. You're not paying as close attention to things. Like, that's when things go wrong. So I think that no matter what, as a rep, there's a healthy level of paranoia. There's a great book by the former president of Intel called Only the Paranoid Survive by Andy Grove. And the idea is just like, if you have a little healthy sense of paranoia, that any day your competitor can come and just take your business away. So what are you doing to make sure, right, that does not happen? You got to make sure your customers are happy, right? You should never assume things. Just because your customer's reordering and they're happy with the product, you should not get comfortable. You should always make a point to visit the account, check in on the customers, etc. Right? Because think of it like this: all that goodwill will come in handy one day, because something will go wrong. And if you've spent time checking in on the customer, supporting them, I mean, even little things like engaging with their content on LinkedIn, or maybe remembering their birthday, being there physically when you find out they're doing a patient event, right, that's unrelated to your product, you make sure to be there physically. And they might say like, "Oh, well, what are you doing here?" And just say, "Hey, I always want you to know, like, I support you, and so that's what I'm here." And I sort of spread the word. They're going to remember all those times, and that's when they're going to kind of give you a little bit of slack when something goes wrong and say, they've been great to me. Otherwise, we had this mess up, but we can kind of overcome that. That's the most important thing, right? So with that being said, I hope this has been helpful. And again, I think the most important thing, what I'm trying to teach you guys as reps, is the importance of self-reflection and analysis, right? When you guys, I'm seeing more of you enroll in my program, which makes me so happy to see. I get a lot of great messages, and I get to interact with you guys. The one thing that we train on, is the ability to analyze and self-reflect and then implement into action what we're learning, right? You should never get comfortable. Safe and comfortable is the most dangerous place you can be in today's world, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're working at a company, etc. And so this constant motion of analysis, reflection, having radically candid conversations with yourself about the state of a customer account, right? These are the things that make you better as a rep, as a business person, and in general, as a human being. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm loving these solo pods. So we'll do another poll, hopefully, or if you have ideas, if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, you can scroll down. There's a place where it shows you can leave a comment. Leave a comment. Give me ideas. DM me on Instagram with things, and we'll cover another solo pod next week. So with that being said, been another episode of The State of MedTech. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you all next time. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for enjoying another epic episode of The State of MedTech. If you're feeling inspired and love this episode, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you never miss an episode. And be sure to give us 5 stars and write a short review, because that helps more people discover this amazing community of ours. If you're a company who has a executive that you'd like to be on the show, or perhaps you want to sponsor one of the episodes, shoot us an email at hello@khateebandco.com. Take care, and we'll see you next time.